Hello, everybody. I want to run through a couple of less complicated multilinear regression models for you here. Your homework assignment for Merlot does have a little bit more of a complicated factor in that you have to convert information to binary or dummy variables, which would be a reasonable request at this point using if statements and perhaps data indexes. However, I want to start us off or go back to the basics of multilinear regression. So I have two data sets here, umbrella sales and touchdowns. So I have days of the week and games. We'll focus on this one first, and then for the sports fans, we'll go to the touchdown one. But you could also just turn off the video at that point. So I'm just going to go through the mechanics of this. I'm not going to talk about the advice. I'm not going to talk about the analysis. There is other content in the course that does that. Just want to do some simple mechanics so that you understand how to get the numbers to jive together. So the first thing we need to do is go to File, Options, Add-ins. Sometimes this takes 30 seconds. Double-click Data Analysis Pack. Okay, hit Go. And we want to make sure it's check-marked over here. So check-marked, okay? Hit OK. I'm not going to do that because it's already check-marked. Okay, so now what I got to do is I'm going to go to Data Analysis Pack. I'm going to go down to Regression. For my Y variable, which is what I want to predict for, I want to predict how many umbrellas my business is going to sell. I'm going to use these two variables. When you use more than one independent variable, that's what creates this multivariate situation versus simple with the Butler trucking examples, where you only use one variable. So multivariate, grab these two. We're going to check mark labels, okay? Because then when we spit out some data over here, it will include these titles. If we don't do that, it won't spit out those titles. It'll do x1, x2, x3, x4, etc. And you're not going to remember what each of those variable names were. Output range, click on that, but notice right away when you do that, Excel goes up here. So if I accidentally go over here and hit H1, it's going to replace this text. So be very careful and hit that output range section. And then what I want you to do is click in here for F1 or H1, G1, doesn't matter. We'll hit OK. Now we have our model's results here. We'll zoom out a little bit. Again, I'm not going to walk through the analysis, but just a reminder of certain things that you want to be looking for when it spits out the model. Honestly, I would not focus your time on any of this other stuff at this part of the course or your career as a student right now. There will be a time and a place where you'll go much more in depth, but right now, simply want to know that this number is greater than equal to 0.7. This number is less than equal to 0.05. These numbers here, same thing, less than equal to 0.05. But you can see here I have a couple of problems. And then these are your coefficients that you're going to use your formula to make. So how do you do this formula? Well, we're going to predict for 10, day 10. So we're going to punch in this formula here equals. We're going to put this here, which is a 0 right now. It won't be a 0 for long, times the coefficient for temperature plus this, which again, I know it's 0 right now, times the coefficient for rain plus the intercept. Now, when we do this, we're going to get 1.44, which is the intercept. Because when you multiply something times 0, which is what we're doing here, you essentially just get your intercept. Now what we're going to do, and this is what an analyst would do, a forecaster would do, a business person would do, is say, hey, how many umbrellas will I sell on day 10 if the temperature is 75 degrees and it's raining? Boom, I'm going to sell about 12, 13 umbrellas. So we tackle this by going here. I'll sell about 13 umbrellas. Now what you say, what if it doesn't rain? If it doesn't rain, I can expect 5 umbrellas for sale. Well, what if it rains and it's 30 degrees out? Well, I'll probably sell 11 umbrellas. This is where that temperature variable here, being a high p-value there, gets to be very challenging in your model because you might think, wow, so if it's 0 degrees out, I sell 9 umbrellas, but when it rains, or when it doesn't rain, I only sell 1. If it's 0 degrees out, it's freezing out, and it's snow. So do people have umbrellas when it's snowing out? Probably not usually. So that's why you also have to use some common sense in a business. So if this was a business, you ran this model, it looked good, the R-squared is good. Yeah, we got a funky temperature here. I would argue that temperature has little to no bearing on umbrella sales. But it is what it is for this data set. Like I said, I didn't want to get too caught up in the nitty-gritty details here. So that's how you do this. That's exactly how you do this. Okay. Now let's go to touchdowns and do the same thing here. We're going to go to data, data analysis, regression. Now because Excel remembered this, let's just pretend that we wipe this out and start from scratch so you can see that again. Excel remembered what we did last time, so it remembered the settings. But we're going to predict receptions based on touchdowns and a home game. We're going to check mark those labels, output range. We're going to put that up in F1, hit OK. And now we have our model, which has very different results compared to that umbrella stuff. So let's take a look. Remember what I said before? We will take the R squared, we will look at this, we will look at these things here, and use those things there. So R squared is definitely lower. It's not greater than equal to 70%. This is definitely a lot higher. It's not less than equal 5%. And all of these, both of these have a very high p-value. So again, we can play around with the model if we wish. Let's predict game 10. And we'll do the formula here, equals touchdowns times this plus home game times this plus that intercept. We don't ever multiply the intercept against anything. It stands on its own. So basically what this is saying is, if I, if I get no touchdowns and no home games, I can expect 5 receptions, give or take. But the moment it's a home game, I can expect less receptions, actually. And if I score 3 touchdowns, I can expect that I probably got 6.5 receptions in the game. Okay, so that's how this works. I'm going to do one more here of this data set to show you something. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to predict touchdowns, but note that my independent variables are on the left and right side, so I can't do a continuous grab here. So what most people try to do is they grab here, they hit the control button and grab there. Now watch what happens. I get an error. Input range must be contiguous, okay, contiguous. Okay, what that means is I have some data transformation to do. Excel does not like it when your dependent variables in here, your y variables here, and your x's are over here. So put simply, we're going to have to copy these and paste them over. We can delete that there. And now we have our data right here. We're going to predict for touchdowns. So we'll go back to the data analysis pack, regression. We're going to have to change our references here because those are erroneous. We're going to grab touchdowns. We're going to grab the x variables here. Everything else is the same. Boom, there's our model. So note, now we're predicting for touchdowns. So let's go ahead and play with that. We'll predict game 10. And we'll say, this times this plus this times this plus intercept. And you can go in either order. In the previous examples, I went here first. I went C times the stuff in G. This time, as you can see, I did G times the stuff in C. So I did it in a reverse order. It does not matter. It will not affect your model. So what this is saying is if it's not a home game and if I don't get any receptions, I will get 1 touchdown. That, my friends, is why sometimes these models break down on you because the numbers are not good. They're not strong enough. The barometer, so to speak. If I don't get any receptions, I'm going to get a touchdown. And these are based on receptions, right? Not based on running or fumbles or anything like that. So we have a problem with our model. Well, let's just go ahead and here and say, yes, it's a home game. Well, if it's a home game, I should not be getting a touchdown. Why? Because look what happened here. Home game is negative 1.25. So every time I put in a new digit, I'm going to change my value here every time by negative 1.25 because of that mathematics up here. Okay. Now, let's say it is a home game and I get 5 receptions. Well, I should get almost just over 1/3 of a touchdown. Why? Because I'm multiplying 5 times this 0.12, but I'm still multiplying it against a 1, which is bringing a negative 1.25. Let's say it's not a home game. Well, now I'm getting almost 2 touchdowns. So look at that. You have to ask yourself, wow, so I perform better when it's not a home game. Or this wide receiver performs better when it's not a home game. Let's say that there's 20 receptions. I should get 3.5 touchdowns. Well, let's say we put in 100 receptions. Well, I should get 13 touchdowns. That would be insane. That would be an insane number for one person to get, plus the fact that it's 100 receptions in one game when most quarterbacks don't do more than 30 completions, things like that in a game. So you do have to put it in perspective. This was a sports example, but it could easily be about a customer and how much they can spend, how much they spend based on your pricing. Don't expect your customer to come in and buy $1,000 worth of Oreo cookies, for example. It's not going to happen unless there's a big party and it's Oreo cookie themed or something like that, or it's a big business order. And even for a business order, that would be a really large example. So hopefully this is helpful for you. Yeah, I just decided, maybe I'll make a simpler video here than what the Merlot assignment already has for you. So, again, the Merlot assignment is a little more advanced because you'll have things like yes, no, and you have to convert those, or sales promotion, discount, rebate, coupon, and you'll have to convert those to text. So it's a little bit more amped up for you in that regard.